Hey guys, so there's a lot of people that want to move to the Boise area, but don't know the costs that come with moving here to Idaho. I'm a Boise local that's lived here all my life, and I want to share with you a couple of the costs that come with living in Boise. So from taxes to housing, insurance, even grocery bills, things like that, your day-to-day living costs month to month, I want to give you a better picture of what it's going to look like to live in Boise, Idaho. And for all my friends who stay until the end, I'm going to share with you guys a full comparison of how Idaho stacks up against the other states, things like the West Coast, Oregon, Washington, California, and sometimes I'll throw in an East Coast state in there as well. All right, hey, what's up guys? My name is Jonathan Silva, and I made this YouTube channel to be a resource and a guide to those who are looking to move to the Boise area, or maybe you're just interested to see what it looks like to live in Boise. Me as a Boise local who also speaks Spanish, I'll be able to give you firsthand insight on what it looks like to live here in the Boise area. And so I'm gonna be reading a little bit off of a paper to give you guys accurate stats so that you can get the full picture and numbers down. But if you have any questions, whether it be over the topics that we talk about in this video or just a topic that you have in general, feel free to give me a contact here at my number. This is my personal number, and if you want to work with me as a real estate agent, I'm here to help people out who have questions, don't know the process, or know the process but just want guidance. So if you have any questions, we'll start off with housing prices. So starting off here with home prices in the Boise area, you can expect an average home to be anywhere from $514,000 to the $520,000 mark. But now if you're looking for maybe like a starter home, for example, you can expect anything from $360 to maybe $380 in the Boise area for a starter home. That's gonna have a little bit more character per se, a little bit older possibly, and with not a full like 3-2. If you prefer a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, like around 200 square feet, those will be starting around the $500,000 mark, depending on, you know, just what you're looking for, specifically age, size, things like that. But there's similar options outside of that, and the current averages surrounding the cities that are near Boise, not just in the suburbs of Boise, that might be a little bit more affordable if you're looking to come to Idaho for the reasons you may be leaving your current state. Things are going to be in Nampa around 404, which can be even up to $100,000 less than the current averages in the Boise area. And I'm walking and talking in a home right now, so hope you enjoy this one. This is an Alturas built in Meridian, which is going to be Meridian homes 15 to 10% cheaper than the Boise average. That's going to be similar price points in terms of new construction, maybe starters in the 400, 450 as well. For a starter home, like I said, Nampa is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be a little bit of a canyon county over to the west. Those are going to be starting at like 404 for like a classic starter home, things like that. You do have to add the commute if you're working in Boise. So we'll talk about those commuting prices as well, for you to kind of have a breakdown. In Kuna, which is pretty close to Meridian, it's a little bit south of Meridian, those are going to be starting at like 435. There's a ton of new construction going on down there, and there's a lot of opportunities for young families. So if you do have any questions about that, definitely let me know. Eagle is going to be the really expensive one. That's going to be like 805 average, and that's because there's a lot of luxury over there in the Eagle area. It's where I would say the majority of it is. But if you do end up looking to rent or start out renting over here in the Idaho area, if you're not ready to commit, you can expect an average of like 16 to 1700 for the renting prices. So that just means that you got to know that Boise is going to have a little bit of a price tag difference when you are living closer to the downtown area, maybe closer to a lot of people's works. I actually get a lot of questions about the HOA and maybe like what that does. If you don't know what an HOA is, a lot of people just want neighborhoods without HOAs, and that's definitely something that we can accommodate. However, it's important to know that sometimes HOAs can be useful and add just value to a home, especially because they maintain common areas. They're in charge of managing, you know, if you have pools, things like that, amenities that are in the neighborhood itself. And they also manage the finances of like collecting dues. They repair stuff in your neighborhood. And lastly, they just, you know, service gates, neighborhood entrances, things like that. So I know Boise may not be specifically, like the downtown Boise area might not be the most friendly to first-time home buyers. However, I do want you guys to know that it is possible, especially if you're a young family that's watching these videos. It's not impossible, but if you do want to look at some areas that are around the Boise area, I personally live in Meridian, and that's another video on why I like to live in Meridian. But there are things like down payment assistance that the state of Idaho has, and there's also things like builder incentives that allow people to get creative and help me get creative with how we want to finance things, and allows you to afford more. So that'll be kind of how house prices look like in the Boise area. Okay, so hold on with me. We're going to be doing the numbers now. Utilities were the first one we're going to go over, is electricity, which is great. I don't know where we would be without it. You guys wouldn't be watching these videos if we didn't have it. Our monthly expectation for what a bill can be over here in Idaho is going to be anywhere from $100 to $115 on average. Now, if you keep your Christmas lights year-round like my neighbor does, then your bill is going to be a lot different. But that's going to be the average bill price, and that's going to be because we have something called Idaho Power. It's the company out here that provides power to the Treasure Valley, which is going to be anything from the Canyon County of Nampa out west to the east of Boise, and they're the only provider in the city. And they use a lot of power that comes from the hydroelectric dams, things like the Snake River that feed it a lot as well. So that's kind of where you can expect the bills to be. And just like a lot of other utility companies, they have tiers, and the different tiers are encouraging to conserve the power. And so an example of that will be at the first tier of 800 kilowatts, it's a lower rate of like 9 to 10 cents per kilowatt. The second is 800 to 2000 kilowatts. That's gonna be the medium rate of like 12 cents per kilowatt. And so it increases as it goes on, and it encourages the Idaho people to not use a lot of electricity, but it still ends up being a lot more affordable than maybe some of the states that you guys live in and are used to. So that's that. I also will mention later in the video other states that compare, like California, and their rates actually escalate a lot faster. So our next utility is going to be gas. Because Idaho does experience all 4 seasons, you can kind of expect it to jump up a little bit in terms of bill price as you heat your home more and just use more of the gas in the summer. However, you can expect $40 to $50 to be your monthly payment, and depending on how much your usage is in the winter, it can jump up to maybe $100 compared to where you're at. But also just little quirky factors to keep in mind. If you have really good insulation, like efficient windows, things like that, and the efficiency of your furnace are all gonna change those numbers as well. So it's also good to keep that in mind. Now for water, for a family of 3 to 4, you can expect your bill to be anywhere from the $40 to $80 range. And that's given that you don't have, hour-long showers. But that's going to be different than the irrigation water. And the irrigation water is water that comes from the canals that's going to water things like your landscaping, your trees, and your lawn, things like that. And the way that works is it's going to be like a flat fee of $25 to $50, and it might even come out of your HOA dues as well. And it's going to be a lot cheaper than the potable water. And the reason that is because there's things like the Snake River and the local aquifers that provide really reliable water, and the water rights and the canal infrastructure from farming areas have kept the irrigation water rates pretty low. And so for homeowners, this translates to lower utility costs for maintaining a yard and landscaping in Idaho versus a lot of the other populated regions in the United States. All right, now we're going upstairs. But for my folks that are looking for a rural home, that's going to be a little bit different. The homes that are on private wells usually don't pay monthly water bills. However, the maintenance and the electricity costs do fall on you. And so that's going to be maybe like $300 to $100 a year for the electricity for the pump. Well maintenance and testing, you want to make sure that your water is clean and isn't really dense with high materials in the water. That's going to be anywhere from like $50 to $200 a year, and it just depends on like where you're getting it done, things like that. Occasional repairs that's going to be the most expensive cost, from anything from like $500 to $2,000, just because the well's an expensive fee. Septic. Those septic sites on a home that's more in the rural areas, those are going to be handling the waste of a home. Those maintenance have pumping maybe 3 to 5 years, and that's gonna be like $300 and $600 cost. Inspections and repairs of the pump, the septic area, making sure that it's good, that's going to be anywhere from the $1,000 to $5,000 range. There is no monthly like municipal sewer bill, which is great, but the long-term cost of the homeowner is the responsibility of theirs. So the pros on that is that there's no monthly water bills. The con is that you got to take care of it yourself. Now, if you're looking to be in a home or in a neighborhood like where I'm in now, there are pros and cons there as well. You'll know that your water and your sewer will be about $80 to even up to like $150 just in a total monthly cost. But the pros and cons there will be that you'll know the standard monthly bill. You'll kind of have an expectation of it being predictable. The standards of your water will be the city. The cons, however, will be that the fees are unavoidable. You do have to pay for those type of things. But yeah, that's kind of where it's at. I'll give you a comparison as well where Idaho stacks up at the end of the video as well. Okay, now I took things outside for the internet. We can expect anywhere from, depending on your provider, maybe $50 to $70 a month for that. And some of the providers that are out here in the Boise area are gonna be guys like CenturyLink, Sparklight, Comcast, and Xfinity, some of the other areas. If you're looking for other small local ISPs, those are going to be here as well. Just depends up to you to look those up specifically. And then a lot of the neighborhoods currently are going to be built with the fiber optic internet. And so for all my work from home viewers, you're going to definitely enjoy that. Another topic that's really important, that's just kind of a day-to-day thing, is going to be the services of like garbage and recycling. Those are going to be services that cost $20 to $40 a month, and that's going to be a lot lower because other densities in other cities are a lot higher. That means more labor for other cities and things like that. But here in the Idaho area, because it's still not huge like some of the other states, you can expect anywhere from that $20 to $40 a month. And they're always driving around picking up trash. But speaking about driving, that's going to be our next one. It's going to be commuting. So when it comes down to commuting, from the current recording of this video, the current cost per gallon is about $3.50, and it's a little bit higher than the national average of $3.15. However, other states remain a lot higher, like in the 28% higher than that. So in terms of Idaho, it's still fairly like doable. It's not super crazy. In Idaho specifically, you do have to keep in mind that it's more of a rural area, especially in this development that I'm in right now. Just things, not every part of the city's taken up yet, so you might drive a little bit. We started off the video from Albertsons, and now we're in Pinnacle. That was like a 3-4 minute drive. It was really not that far. So there are things like that, but if you want to go out farther, maybe some different parks, different areas, downtown Boise, it's going to take a little bit of gas, so definitely keep that in mind. There's not a lot of traffic compared to a lot of the other cities that are out here in the US. It's fairly manageable. You're not having to drive super far to get to where you're going, so it's definitely doable. I think I also want to point out that I have a beautiful, I think it's beautiful, an F-150, and personally to fill it up, it might, if I fill it up twice a month, each one might take like 130, 150, depending on like how empty it is. And this one does take up a lot of gas, so if you have something a little bit smaller, it's going to be a lot less in terms of price every time you tank up. But I drive a lot. A lot, especially for my clients. Like, I'm meeting people out in all different areas of the Idaho area. So I love doing that for my clients, but it does take up a lot of gas, but it's not too bad. I've definitely managed, and I think it's one of those cost of living things that isn't super bad. The average tax on the gallon here in Idaho is going to be about 30 cents. And later, when we talk about the taxes on gas, it's going to surprise you, I think, a lot where places like California are at in terms of their gas tax prices. Now, with talking about taxes, Idaho is going to be having a sales tax of 6%, and that's going to be things for like goods, services, However, with the property taxes, Idaho does kind of boast about that. We do have some of the lowest property taxes in the nation, with an effective rate of 0.45 to 0.55%. And what that translates to on a home that costs maybe $611,000, you're gonna be able to be paying like property taxes of like $2,400. So that's gonna be kind of an overall basis. However, there is something in Idaho called the homeowner's exemption, and that's going to be a taxable value that they can deduct or exempt, reduce, I guess you could say, of the primary owner's residence. And that's going to be including up to 1 acre of land, and that's 50% of the home's value up to a maximum of $125,000. Now with things like insurance, it's another big win for the Idahoans. We're gonna go over some of the stats, but I think that overall, Idahoans don't pay as much in the insurance area just because we're not dealing with a bunch of natural disasters all the time, like maybe some of the West and East Coast side states. Wanted to give you guys some numbers month to month. On the car insurance side of things, you may be paying about $1,400 a year, which would equate to $120 per month. And that's a little bit less than the national average of 33% less. And that's going to be because it's $179 a month nationally. In the average cost for homeowners insurance, you might be paying up to $1,400 in Idaho, which is 31% lower than the national average again. A national average being around 24, 23. That was posted by NerdWallet. And the premium silver health insurance plan, just looking at some online quickly on the Idaho page, it's approximately $490. However, some subsidies do report paying less than $77 per month. So that's just some numbers that I wanted to go over with you guys. But next is going to be groceries. Now here in the kitchen, I want to go over some of the groceries with you guys. Groceries in Idaho can cost anywhere from $6,000 a year, maybe being a monthly cost of $500, depending on how much you eat. My bill is definitely on the higher end. I definitely love to eat, big foodie here in the area. Washington's going to be a comparison of $6,000 and $200 a month or a year, sorry. And Oregon being almost just under that $6,000 range. New York is a little bit higher. They're at the $6,400 range. Oregon stands out because they have the lowest grocery cost and no sales tax on groceries. However, Idaho and Washington have similar grocery costs, and Washington having a higher sales tax on groceries can increase the overall expense. New York City has a higher cost in general, just because it's New York City. But a lot of the local farmers here in Idaho allow us to have things like organic produce. It opens up options of where you want to get groceries each month. And there's a lot of different places to get those groceries. Places like the Boise Co-op, Trader Joe's, and there's also a Whole Foods down in the downtown Boise area as well. Now, talking about the miscellaneous costs that come with owning a home, being over here in the Boise area, some things that I was just thinking about was like my gym membership. I'm paying mine at like $35 a month for like this premium. There's some as low as like $25 if you're in the area as well. Idaho Fitness Factory is one of my gym recommendations if you guys are looking for like a fitness center. Love that one. The parking in the city, like if you're in downtown Boise, is going to be like just a couple of bucks for like the first hour, maybe like $2 for the first hour, and then like $3 for the next. So definitely like very affordable. Just parking garages aren't that expensive. So if you're downtown in the Boise area, it's not going to break the bank. One thing that I did want to touch on as well, just kind of wrapping up, is going to be on the first, big things that we're talking about. We have the comparison right after. The salaries. The salaries are a little bit lower here in the Boise area. However, it makes more sense when you see the cost of living here adds up to be a lot less than the neighboring West Coast states. So where maybe the average salary in Idaho, let's see, was about $60,000, but compared to California and Washington, they're like around that 70. Oregon was 68. But remember, when you add up those living expenses, it definitely changes the way people feel. I have a lot of friends and family that have moved over here, especially from the California area, just because they say they can't afford it anymore. And so now I want to go into a breakdown of where Idaho stacks up, and let me know that in the comments, whether or not it shocks you. All right, guys, so without further ado, we are going to go into the comparison. So I'm gonna try to go a little slow, read off from the notes, and give you guys the most accurate information I can. So starting off with a recap of where Boise was at, we're gonna start off with electricity. Now, with the electricity average being $100 to $115, Seattle stacks up to $140. Los Angeles, you can be anywhere from the 180 to the 200 range, and some East Coast residents even pay like $200 for the same amount of usage. So definitely a lot different. For the in-home gas costs, Idaho stays around the $40 to $50 range, and in the summer, because it gets a little bit colder, we can expect your bill to go up even to as high as like $100. Since California remains warmer, they don't have to worry about heating their home as much, but more like cooling it down. Washington has a higher average for $50 to $70 during the summer, and a winter reaching $100 or more. So that kind of stays around the similar range of Idaho. Oregon, however, has a similar gas cost, but a higher winter bill, staying around the $100 to $200 range. And for water, this was pretty interesting to me, particularly California. The irrigation water can be a lot more expensive or even restricted during the droughts. Water bills averaging from $80 to $150 a month per household use. Irrigation separate if allowed. Often charged at potable water rates, so that can be pretty expensive. Some areas have tiered pricing that can spike up to $200 in the summer. It's like, gosh, that's a lot for the water. Washington, the water bills can be $70 to $120. The irrigation can often be charged at the same rates or metered separately. East Coast, you're going to be looking at like $50 to $150 a month. There's a wide range over there. For trash and recycling services in Idaho, we touched on that a little bit earlier in the video. You'll be around the $20 to $40 a month range, and other states are often $20 to $50, and it's a little bit higher because of their regulation, if they have fees for disposal, and they often have higher labor costs because of the density of the people, or even just older infrastructure that they're taking into account. Gas is a big one. A lot of people talk about the gas prices. Because Idaho is a little bit slightly higher on the national average on a cost per gallon basis, it's good to compare the nearby states. So when we're at $3.50, California is coming in at $4.65 a gallon. Washington is at $4.54 a gallon. Oregon is at $4.20 per gallon. Utah, however, is a little bit lower. They're at $3.39, so it's not like incredibly lower. I think it's just more of the taxes on the gallon, which can reach, up to almost like $1 more in terms of California, just taxes, just the fee they put on the gas. For more taxes, Idaho sales tax stays at the 6, with California being at a base of 7.25 as a base, and there's local additions that can maybe add or take away from that, but only usually add. Washington, 6.5 as a base. Oregon doesn't have any sales tax, and New York City is around 4%. So with that, we're gonna go back down to the Idaho property taxes. That's gonna be 0.45 to 0.55, which California has a 0.76 average for the property taxes. Washington has a 0.93 average, and Oregon has a 1% average on the property taxes. So definitely a lot higher than regular. But guys, I just wanted to give you guys an overview of what it looks like to cost in Idaho. If you want to go a little bit deeper or have any questions, please just reach out and I'll be able to help you and your family kind of go over the costs that maybe you can expect and more in depth. But if you do have any other questions, just feel free to give me another text at this number. That's going to be my personal number, like I said in the beginning of the video. But if you want to know why locals are leaving the state of Idaho, I would definitely recommend that you guys check out this video.